AI agents are taking the world by storm in 2024, but AI agents cannot build themselves, at least not yet. Even tech giants like Google are recognizing the potential here with their own agentic platforms. And it's not just Google. A wave of SaaS products are now ditching traditional chatbots in favor of more advanced agent-based systems. And although some of these platforms haven't changed a thing beyond the copy on their landing pages, it's evident that the role of an AI agent developer will be one of the most sought after jobs of 2024. However, unfortunately, because it's still so early, no one really understands what exactly to look for, leave alone how to become one. So in this video, I will finally demystify who an AI agent developer is, what skills you'll need to become one, and most importantly, provide you with a complete roadmap that you can follow by yourself right now. Let's dive in. Alright, before we jump in, I'm sure you might be asking who am I and why do you have to listen to me and what I have to say about AI agents. So allow me to introduce myself. My name is Arsen and I'm currently running one of the most popular AI agent frameworks on GitHub that allows you to create agencies with AI called Agency Swarm. But that's not all. I'm also running my own AI agency where we recently launched the first of its kind Agents as a Service subscription. So unlike other influencers, I'm not making my living selling you ads. I actually make all of my income delivering real-world AI solutions. In fact, just in the past month, I've hired 2 AI agent developers myself. So hopefully this now gives you an idea that I've got a pretty good understanding of what to look for. Okay, with that out of the way, allow me to break down what AI agents are. I've previously talked about this on my channel, so if you want to dive into more details, please make sure to watch this video after. Here, I'm just gonna give you a brief overview because understanding how to think about AI agents will significantly impact your approach to building them. From what I've heard so far, typically most of AI influencers either define them as automations or as your own employees. In my opinion, both of these definitions are extremely misleading. On the one hand, AI agents have a lot more autonomy than automations. AI automations run on your backend no matter what. Even if the whole world burns down, AI automation is just gonna keep running like nothing happened. On the other hand, AI agents have less autonomy than your own employees because your employees can defy you. You can provide them with as many instructions as you want, but they can still consider things on their own and do them in their own way. So the closest definition to AI agents that I've ever heard was made by Andrei Karpathy, who said that AI agents are essentially operating systems. AI agents fall in between employees and automations. They have RAM, which is memory, they have access to tools, and they can use other LLMs and reflect upon their own actions. Why am I telling you this? Well, because oftentimes I've noticed that some of you guys are trying to make your agents perform literally everything by themselves. This, in my opinion, is wrong. You shouldn't just tell your agent what you want and then hope it's going to do it all for you. Your agent should only route the requests from the user to the tools. All of the heavy lifting must be performed by the tools, not by your agents. Think of it as your own OS like Windows or Mac, where we have different apps for specific purposes. We don't even consider how these apps function, we simply control them. And the same should apply to your agents. You can't just tell them what you want and then sit back and wait until you become a millionaire. Unfortunately, this does not work out yet, and at this point, the most significant challenge that prevents mass adoption of AI agents is their reliability. Currently, to make agents reliable, you need to carefully fine-tune them on a specific business process. And this is exactly where AI agent developers come in. As an AI agent developer, your role is to ensure that your agents have access to all the necessary resources, tools, and knowledge to perform their designated tasks. Essentially, what it entails is first conducting thorough research about the business and determining which of those resources the agent will need. Then you need to create the tools. As I said, tools are the most important. While building your agency, you have to constantly iterate on it, gather feedback from the stakeholders, and adjust it in a loop until it performs consistently from time to time. And finally, you must actually deploy your agents, which is a step that a lot of people skip, and then integrate them into your client's business. You have to make sure that these agents work seamlessly alongside their own employees. Now, what skills are required to become an AI agent developer? Well, as for the soft skills, definitely communication and eagerness to learn. Communication, because you'll often find yourself gathering requirements from the stakeholders and setting clear expectations, which is not an easy task. And eagerness to learn, because we're still in a very early stages with advancements in AI emerging all the time. So you have to be able to adapt very quickly. And as for the hard skills, primarily it will be light backend development combined with AI. So now, can anyone become an AI agent developer in 2024? In my opinion, yes. Anyone can do this, because imagine if you were trying to excel in a subject like math and you'd be up against people who'd spend their entire lives mastering it. However, when it comes to AI agent development, you'll only be competing with people who have at least a few months of experience. So in my opinion, the timing is just right, even if you're a beginner. Now, I'm sure that you guys might be wondering if coding will be necessary or if some no-code platforms will suffice in the future. Well, the short answer is yes, coding will be necessary. Here's why. First of all, the most powerful tools that your agent will use will always require some coding experience. Sure, you can connect your agents to off-the-shelf APIs, but typically in real-world scenarios, we always create those proxy endpoints even if we connect to off-the-shelf API. This gives us a lot more control over the behavior of the tool. For example, we can process the input data and output data as we see fit. Moreover, a lot of those tools do require multiple APIs together or some custom logic inside. Secondly, open source will always lead the way. Not in a sense of developing the most powerful models, but in a sense of actually using them in creative projects. SaaS platforms often require thorough testing and a lot more time to release new features. Open source repos like my agency's Swarm framework can adapt to new advancements in AI much faster. And lastly, many of my clients are extremely concerned about data privacy. For them, SaaS platforms are not even an option. They want to deploy agents on their own existing infrastructures. So while SaaS platforms will definitely evolve over time and they might satisfy some of our client needs in the future, I believe that learning to code will still be a non-negotiable. Moreover, with the advent of AI coding tools, coding is literally becoming akin to using another SaaS platform, because you can already code using only natural language. So the learning curve is nowadays much smoother, and there is no longer a need to learn any complex data structures or algorithms. You just have to know them on a high level so you know what questions to ask. The rest AI can already do for you. My roadmap factors in all of those AI coding tools. So let's now take the first step, which is to find a good project. Yes, guys, I can't emphasize this enough. You can't start without a project. If you don't use it, you lose it. Everything that you learn without a project, you will simply not retain. On the other hand, having a real-world project from the start will give you your own lens through which you can interpret all of the following information. And the best way to find a good project is to think about your own interests and how they could intersect with AI. Your niche is essentially where AI combines with your talents. All of the obvious applications for large language models have already been capitalized upon. If you were to create another AI agent for research, for example, you'd be up against tens of open source and commercial projects providing this exact service. However, the real opportunity lies in merging AI with your own unique interests. This is how you can find those untapped use cases that may captivate other people just like you. For example, I used to be into EDM, so I could create an AI agent that would send me the latest hits, create MIDI files with a custom coded tool, generate certain sounds with 11 Labs API, or even entire songs when a company like Udio releases their own API. So start by scoping an initial agentic project. Include how many agents you want to create, what each agent will do, and what tools they will use. Additionally, it's helpful to determine the overall goals and the desired outcomes of the system. If you want to download my Notion template for scoping an agentic project, that we use in our agency almost every day, please feel free to use the link below. It's gonna ask you for your email. I'll explain why at the end of this video. Once your project is fully scoped, you're ready to move to the next step, which is the environment setup. Your development environment is where you'll be spending most of your time, so it's important to nail it down from the very start. First, you'll need an IDE. This is the software you'll use to write and test your code. There are many IDEs to choose from, but some of the most popular ones are Visual Studio Code, JetBrains, and Xcode. I personally prefer JetBrains, but it's not free, although you can get it for free if you're currently a student. Next, you'll need to install Python. Python is the most commonly used language for AI development. Literally, the entire AI industry runs on Python. It's also a great language for beginners because it's extremely easy to read. Just follow all the installation steps on their main website, and if you run into any issues, just send them to ChatGPT, please. Don't send them into comments. After that, you'll need to figure out package management. This is how you'll install and manage the various libraries and tools you'll use in your project. Messing up package management is the single most common regret for all Python developers. Remember that you should never install packages globally for a specific project and always create separate virtual environments. I recommend using a tool like Conda, however Python also has a built-in package manager called venv. Finally, you'll need to find your AI development tools. As I said, these are crucial in 2024. Honestly, I personally barely even code myself, I just check code provided by AI. Some of the most popular ones are GitHub Copilot, Cursor, ChatGPT, Amazon Code Whisperer, and even your own agent like David. I recommend Cursor at the start, which is an AI-first IDE forked from VS Code. It's one of those rare tools that strike the right balance between coding and using AI. They are also backed by OpenAI. Once your environment is ready to go, it's time to start coding. So the next step is to learn the basics. At this stage, I do not recommend diving into too much detail. You just need to learn programming at a relatively high level. There are many resources available online to learn Python quickly. You can find tutorials on YouTube, or you can even read books like Learning Python, which is what I did in my early days. However, what you can do now is also create your own agent or a custom GPT, upload this entire book, all of those YouTube videos, and use it to assist you with your learning process. Another great way is to clone a repository on GitHub that you really admire and go through it with AI. Ask questions about specific lines of code that you don't understand. Then try to modify this repo or add some new features. Feel free to try this out with my own framework and submit a PR if you create something cool. Next, you'll need to learn Git. Git is a version control system that lets you track code changes and collaborate with others. This is important because sometimes as an AI agent developer, you might have to collaborate with your client's development team. Again, there are many resources available to learn Git. You can find tutorials on YouTube, or you can use tools like GitHub Copilot CLI, a new addition to GitHub Copilot that explains or even creates any terminal commands for you. Fireship also has a great course on Git that I personally recommend. Once you've got the handle on the basics, the next step is to learn the modern AI development tech stack. The first skill you absolutely need to master as an AI agent developer after you learn the basics is the use of LLM APIs. Currently, the leading players in the field are OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google Gemini. In my opinion, OpenAI is at least a few months ahead of everyone, although they were extremely slow with releases recently. So I definitely recommend starting with OpenAI. Also, in my opinion, although the gap between open source and commercial models will shrink over time, commercial will always be ahead. Feel free to disagree with me in the comments. So explore OpenAI API and try to create an agent from scratch. Don't use any frameworks or libraries. Equip it with tools using only custom code and try to fine-tune it on a simple task. This will give you a much better understanding of how AI agents work internally. However, don't stop on just commercial model APIs. Sometimes there is a need to deploy or fine-tune an open source model because of data privacy. I am also currently working on adding a new way to use my framework with open source models, and if this proves successful, I will let you know. So it's important to know how to reuse existing AI models in 2024, but I would not recommend learning to train your own AI from scratch. As I said in one of my previous videos, AI is just becoming way too complex, secretive, and expensive. There is absolutely no way you can train any breakthrough model by yourself. Instead, try fine-tuning or deploying existing models on a platform like Hugging Face. They offer convenient deployment options and a convenient way to fine-tune those models. So I've actually released videos on how to do both on my channel as well. And finally, you'll need to learn function calling. Function calling is a feature that allows LLMs to call external functions. This is how your agents interact with the outer world, and this is why it's the most important part of the entire system. In our agency, we don't measure results of our systems by analyzing the outputs of the messages. Instead, we measure our results by analyzing the actions that those agents take. I recommend exploring the instructor library, which is a project developed by Jason Leo that conveniently combines Pydantic with function calls. Essentially, it allows you to validate all the inputs provided by your agents before executing any logic inside those function calls. So my framework depends on Instructor for all custom tools, and Jason also has a detailed documentation with many great examples. After that, the next step is to learn multi-agent frameworks. The most popular ones are currently AutoGen, CrewAI, and my own framework, Agency Swarm. I've previously discussed all of them on my channel, and I also released many tutorials on how to use my own framework, so I won't go into too much details here. If you prefer another framework, there are also plenty of tutorials on YouTube. Essentially, all these frameworks do is just handle some of the underlying details for running your agent-based systems, such as multi-agent communication, function execution, and state management. There is an intricate balance, however, between having control over your systems and being able to get started fast. My framework is definitely heavily skewed towards control and customization rather than the ease of use. It provides you with full access over your agents without any hard-coded prompts or any hard-coded agents, even like in other frameworks. So other frameworks might definitely be easier to get started with because you don't have to create all of those prompts and agents yourself, but they might be too restrictive if you're building anything more complex than a trip planner. Now, there is one crucial step that a lot of people skip, which is actually deploying your agents in production. This is why next you do have to learn some light backend API development. You can start by deploying a simple model via API. There are many ways to do this. For example, you can use Firebase functions, AWS Lambda, or even create your own server with Flask or Fast API. I recommend using serverless because the number of requests your agent receives can vary significantly from time to time. Therefore, you need a scalable solution. To learn quickly, the best way is to chat with ChatGPT. It knows surprisingly well all of those infrastructure providers like Google Cloud, AWS, and Azure. Google Cloud also has recently introduced their own assistant powered by Gemini, which can be used directly from their console. You can simply ask how to create a serverless function and it will provide you with an exact step-by-step process to follow. And if you encounter any issues, of course, you can send them back and it will help you to resolve it. Once you've deployed your agent as an API, try integrating it into a channel like Slack or Discord. Or you could even go farther and try creating your own chat user interface using a platform like Vercel's V0. Front-end development could be helpful sometimes, however, it's not a requirement. Once you've shared your project with the world, the final step is to monetize it. Making money is hands down the best way to learn because you also get paid for it. And to do this effectively, you must productize your service. You must reuse as much of the previous code as possible. You should create templates for each step of the process, like deploying agents, creating tools, or even creating agent templates. Sometimes that could be helpful, although I do not recommend using it all the time. After that, you need to find your first client. There are three means you can find your first client. Number one is freelance platforms. This is the easiest and the fastest way to find a client without making significant time and money investments. I think AI agent development fits quite well with freelancing because the projects are relatively short term. Besides, there is almost no competition for AI agent devs on these platforms yet. This is how I personally got started. I used to work as an AI freelancer on Upwork, which gave me a ton of experience because I was working with many different companies on various projects across all modalities like audio, vision, NLP, and so on. My tip for you here is to create your own project offers and let your clients find you instead of sending proposals. Number two, cold outreach. Cold outreach involves sending cold emails and DMs to companies offering your service. This method requires a lot more effort, but it can also lead to higher paying clients. I don't have much experience doing cold outreach, but my tip for you is to always schedule a call instead of trying to sell your solution via emails. And finally, you can find a full-time job. You'd be surprised how many companies are actually looking for AI agent developers right now, and the best way to find such a company is to look for startups that recently received funding. Our team is also currently on the lookout for AI agent developers, so if you have already completed all of the previous steps, you can reach out to us on our Discord. Remember, the goal is not just to make money, but to learn and grow as you go. And to wrap this up, I just wanted to share a bonus tip with you, which is to build your own community. Building a community requires a substantial time investment. However, if you have a community and if you understand the needs and challenges that your community is currently facing, you can tailor your services specifically for them. This will not only help you stand out, but will also provide you with extremely valuable feedback. So as I said, I personally started as a freelancer on Upwork. Yet about a year ago, I decided to start this YouTube channel. I thought that maybe by this time I would get my first client from YouTube. However, believe it or not, my first client found me on my second video when I had only about 100 subscribers or so. So I definitely recommend considering platforms like Twitter, YouTube Shorts, Medium, or even your own open source project with a dedicated Discord server. It will take some time to grow your audience, but if you stick, the investment will totally be worth it. So yeah, that's it for this video, guys. If you want to grab this whole roadmap and my AI agent scoping template for Notion, make sure to use the link below. It's gonna ask you for your email because I'm currently working on a complete course that will include a lot more information that I couldn't fit into a single video here. We are actually one of the very few companies in the world that productized AI agent development at scale, so we have a lot more to share. However, before we do that, I want to make sure that this course is as good as it can be, so it will probably take me a couple months or so to make it. Thank you guys for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.